perde tempo escolhendo a roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, gente, que eu dou um bugão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Colarinha dos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rafa Gomes, digam no beat. Não perde tempo escolhendo a roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, que eu dou um bugão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rolar em altos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço.
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, good evening or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to worldwide, this is Gary on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Tonight, you might want to get yourself a nice cup of Japa, maybe even a beer, because depending on where you're at, the weather is, at least where I'm at down the compound, well, it reminds me of summertime. In the mid-70s, I'll tell you, my Harley is out sitting in the parking lot. I almost took off today. If I would have done that, I don't know if I would have been here for the show tonight. Well, we got a great guest tonight. He actually runs a podcast himself. Yeah, he has a show called Closer Encounters. Clarence Mitchell will be on right after this.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Now, John, you know that is not true, okay? Maybe not the worst, but not the best, but somewhere in between. I'll tell you, today, the weather was so beautiful at the compound. I went out there to take my daughter out shopping today. We did some running around, not on my Harley, but in her car. I tell you, every time I saw a motorcycle go by, I tell you, I almost felt like just leaving her in the store and running home and getting on my bike. Hey, Clarence, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, very good. Very good, Gary. Thank you very much.
Well,
how are you doing?
I am doing so great. It's, that time of year, I love it. But you know what? Earth changes are going on. It seems like summer is hitting sooner, at least in my area, than it has, in years. And it's been going on like this for the last 3 years.
Yes, and I can explain why that's happening, but we can talk about that later on if you like.
Well, it better not be about me smoking my cigars.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. My wife said our weather is changing because I smoke the cigars. I don't believe that one. But anyway,
No.
You run a podcast. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about the podcast? Then we can get into, all kinds of things like aliens, UFOs, what got you to do a podcast. And we can also talk about the hits and misses on guests.
Yes, absolutely. My podcast / radio show, whatever you would like to call it, it's called Closer Encounters. And I've been doing this, 5-6 years now, I guess. And it all started on a different platform. We are now on Spreaker, just like a lot of other people. We all made some changes over the years. And we have a website. It's at closerencounters.space. And, you can find us also on Facebook / Closer Encounters Radio.
Well, a lot of people have moved over to that platform. I use it for one only reason. Now, I go through a commercial company, my servers go out and it feeds out all to the apps and to the radio stations. But I couldn't get on iTunes. And the only way I could get on iTunes was going through Spreaker. So I use Spreaker, and plus it gives me chat.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
and that's one of the reasons why we went over here. But actually, I was kind of forced over to it in a way.
What
the other platform I was using, and I loved it because it had its own call-in number assigned to you. And, of course, you could take calls and make calls and do whatever. And it cost you, a little bit of money a month, and I didn't mind that. But what happened was it had gotten so glitchy and almost censored, it seemed like, that one day I got an email from them saying, why don't you switch over to this other platform and we'll give you the RSS feed, and you can put all of your shows on this other platform. So basically, they kind of moved us, so to speak, and I don't know why. It was a crazy thing.
Well, do you mind mentioning, the platform, who they were?
I was Blog Talk Radio.
Strange. Well, I hate to say it. I had a guest on recently that, I'm not going to go in because I don't want anybody to know who he is. But his wife started calling up some of these networks, and they were very excited to bring the guy on as a host. They even met the guy somewhere with a contract, and he signed it. And they were telling him, "Oh, gee, you're going to be," and you know what it is. Some of these networks, it's all about money. They don't care about your show, and they want you to pay as much as I don't know how much you paid a month, but I have talked to people that have paid up to $400, $500 a month to be on some of these networks, and it's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, I was spending between $35 and $40 a month just on that platform alone, and I was with them for like 5 years. So
well, maybe,
it did add up after a while.
Well, maybe they were raising their rates, and that's why they wanted to move you.
It could be. It very well could be.
Yeah, a lot of people, Clarence, don't realize, I use a network that feeds out to radio stations. That is really expensive. I run my own servers, that feed out to all the different apps. And yes, I use Spreaker. I use that other one. But to run my show a month, it costs me around $1,300 a month to do my show. That is with the server costs, the going out for the radio station feeds. I run 3 Skype subscriptions, which you never know which one's going to go down. And I tell you, it was a hobby. I was retired, and I've been in broadcasting off and on since 1976, so I've been around. And, I just decided at one point I didn't want to do broadcasting anymore. And I get a phone call from a friend of mine. And he said, hey, you need to get into internet broadcasting. And, it didn't take much. And there I was. But I tell you, it went from a hobby for the first year. And that's all it was a hobby. Now it's a full-time business of like probably 60 hours a week to do my show.
Wow. That's unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So it's
wow.
It's not a type of a hobby you're going to get rich on, and a lot of people don't realize when you have radio stations, they think, oh wow, you're rich. Radio stations don't pay you anything to carry your show. They don't.
Exactly. No, they don't.
And
no,
in fact,
it's the advertisement. It actually pays you.
Oh yeah. And when they advertise, you don't get any revenue sharing off of it. So what I do is I have a couple of national accounts that play on all the radio stations. It doesn't on the internet. That's the deal I made with my agent is any radio station that wants to carry my show. Okay. I'm going to carry my internet without any advertising. And I don't want to have advertising. It's as simple as that.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good way to go too. Honestly, yeah, you did the right thing.
Well, I enjoy it. So, what do you think about all this disclosure talking about UFOs and aliens? What you think that was? Do you think now? Again, I've been in this paranormal talk radio since '76. I've heard it. I have heard it so much and so often. Maybe this talk with the Navy now, with their pilots saying if you see a UFO, you can report it. You don't have to worry about losing your, flight status or anything like that. Maybe that was a disclosure. I don't know. But this big disclosure is supposed to came down, hasn't come down.
Well, I did, what was that, 2017 in December, when Tom DeLonge and all them guys were out doing their thing. And the Washington Post made that big announcement about the disclosure, and they showed the video of the UFO that the fighter jet was chasing. And now I did a big rant about that. And I'll be honest, I was super, super upset about it. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there is never going to be disclosure what people think is going to be disclosure. Okay? It's not going to happen. As you know, Dr. Greer and Tom DeLonge and all these other ones are all coming out with these papers, and ex-CIA people and yada, 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 and they all claim that this is happening and all this stuff. And this has been going on for couple of 3 years now, and not one thing has ever really tweaked, disclosure, basically. And when this post come out from Washington, the Washington Post, and then everybody ran with it, the only thing that they disclosed was the fact that they spent $22 million on an investigation of UFOs. That was it. They didn't say UFOs were real. They didn't claim aliens were real. They didn't claim anything other than the fact that they were doing an investigation. And then they showed you a clip of a UFO being chased by, fighter jets. The clip itself is 10 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen other clips identical to this over and over and over again on TV, on YouTube, on, any source of internet you can find. There's been hundreds of these same clips over and over and over again. Every UFO show, every, whatever you want to say on TV has showed similar type clips. So we didn't get anything other than the fact that they were doing an investigation that cost $22 million. And that was it.
Yeah. Well,
that was it.
Well, do you ever think, Clarence, because they have lied, going back to Roswell, okay, the government has lied to us. And I think at this point, they have lied all these years on so many different, reports and whatever the way they could. I don't think they could come out and tell the truth at this point. You know, this like if you know